Hello everybody. Today we'll be analyzing a mixed graph taken from IELTS practice tests +3 by Margaret Matthews, Katie Salisbury, Pearson Education Limited, page 112. So now let's look at the essay at the task prompt. The graph and bar chart below show the average monthly rainfall and temperature for one region of East Africa. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Okay. So here we have average monthly rainfall and temperature. Okay. So here we have temperature and here we have rainfall. Okay. And then here the measurement is given in millimeters. Okay, now our job is to show the correlation between the data presented in the line graph and the bar graph. So first, let's look at the introduction paragraph. The column graph, which basically means the bar graph, features, which means shows, the average monthly rainfall rate for one area of East Africa. Okay, so we have just paraphrased our task. The line graph section, okay, so you can just write also the line graph or the line graph section, both of them are correct, shows the changes in the temperature levels. So we have temperature, right? The temperature levels of the same area over a 12-month period. A 12-month period covers the period from January to December. So our job is to paraphrase the task prompt, focusing on the main features. Now let's move on. In the next paragraph, we need to describe a general picture without focusing on the precise percentages, numbers, and figures. Overall, it seems that. Okay, so basically it seems that basically means you have already analyzed and you're trying to draw a relevant conclusion. So the higher the temperature is, the more frequently it rains in the region. Now, if you look at this carefully, right, we have a high temperature and we see that the amount of the rain increases significantly here. By contrast, so when you write by contrast, basically you want to describe the opposite situation. So by contrast, the lower the temperature is, and the less often rainfall occurs. So focus on general trends without featuring any percentages. So that's exactly what we have just done. Okay. Next, let's move on. More specifically, so you should use the phrase more specifically in the next body paragraph in order to talk about some specific details. Less than 300 millimeters of rainfall was recorded in April. So if you look at April, right, and then here we have less than 300 millimeters because 300 would be here and this is less than. Okay, which positively correlates with a high temperature of slightly less than 23.5 degrees. So here we also need to focus on the temperature level here of slightly less than 23.5 degrees. And if you look at this carefully, here we have 23.5 and this is a little bit less than this. So show this connection. An expression positively correlates with basically means has a very close connection with. So our job is to focus on the highest percentage in the graph and show the correlation between this percentage and the other percentage in the second graph. Let's move on. Approximately the same temperature is shown for April and October, namely 23.5 degrees. Now, if you look at the figure for April, And the figure for October, you can see that they were equal, right? They were at the same level. And here you need to use the word namely, which means to be more specific when you want to give one specific number or one specific figure. So our job is to indicate two similar or the same percentages in the graph. Next, the lowest temperature, 20.5 degrees, okay, closely correlates with the minimum rainfall level in July. Now, if you look at the month of July, right, we can see that 20.5 degrees, okay, closely correlates with the minimum rainfall level in July at approximately 10 millimeters, okay, and you can see that this is 10 millimeters, okay. Next, and here we have 20.5, and we have this figure, so show the correlation, and here I wrote minus minus, showing that this is the lowest figure here. So focus on the lowest percentages in the graph and show the connection between them. Next, the amount of rainfall recorded in May, October, and November is more or less the same at around 150 millimeters. Now we'll need to look at 3 months, so May, October, and November, okay, and we can see that the percentages were almost the same, they were similar, and that's why you can use the expression more or less the same, and then and then show the level at around 150 millimeters. So our job is to focus on similar or the same percentages in the graph. Next, by contrast, so when you want to talk about something, when you first describe the highest percentages and then you want to focus on the lowest percentages, use the phrase by contrast. The least rainfall was registered at just below 20 millimeters for January, February, June, July, August, and September. So if you look at all of these months, right, then you can say that the amount of rainfall was just below 20 millimeters. So here we have 50, in the middle would be 25, and here they are under 20 millimeters. So the idea is you have to combine several months with the lowest percentages, and then so when you have this group indicate only one specific number, you can just say that all of them were below 20 millimeters, and then indicate the exact months that you are describing. Next, while the figure for December was significantly higher than for the above months, okay, so if you look at December, we can see that this figure, right, is significantly higher than the figures for all the months that we have described. It was far lower than the figures for May, October, and November. So now we're just taking all of these months and we can say that this figure was lower than the figures for these months. So our job is to find the average percentage and compare it with other percentages using the word while. So the idea is you have to focus on one particular month and say that the percentage or the figure for this particular month was higher than the percentages for the other months that we have analyzed, but significantly lower than the percentages presented, and then you have to focus on the other months that you are describing. So show this difference. And that's it. I hope you have learned how to analyze mixed graphs and how to find correlations between them and indicate them in your graph description. Good luck with your IELTS examination.